This coronavirus is deadly and is dangerous.
Anyone who's thinking of taking any chances, just take a look at me. I'm in the intensive care unit. I can't breathe without this.
There's a high level of contagion, and we're not even counting the dead anymore. Look at the news that's coming out of.
Hello and welcome everyone. This is an awareness video for the coronavirus, COVID-19 for short. I'm directly going to the point and not going to talk about what COVID-19 is, because that's the only topic on the internet and media for the past 2 months. Doctors around the world are explaining about the virus, so what I'm going to address is the precaution method that's necessary to control the spreading of the virus. To simply put how deadly the virus is, the current status of the world in this pandemic situation is overwhelming with the amount of affected individuals. To put it on numbers, infected people around the world is crossing 640,000 and rising, and dead is 29,000 and rising. We can see an exponential growth in the rise of the disease infected people, and this is because of the contagious nature of the disease itself. This particular disease is extremely contagious. To put it in a simpler way, one scratch on the surface of our body, especially on the sensitive areas like eyes, nose, ears, mouth, etc., with a virus contaminated hand is enough to get infected with the coronavirus. The virus contamination happens from being directly in contact with an infected person, or another possibility is from the infected person's body fluid like saliva. The transmission of the virus doesn't have to be directly from touching the infected person. It can be transmitted by touching the foreign object that the infected person had previously came in contact with. So perhaps we can clearly understand that the virus needs a carrier. It needs a carrier to stay alive and transfer from one person to another. So in this case, why do we need a lockdown? What is the purpose of having a lockdown? Lockdown is to isolate the carrier from transferring the disease from a diseased to a healthy person. So this is ultimate necessity. This is an ultimate necessity to prevent disease from spreading. So let's get to the real question. Which of the objects are already carrying the virus so that we can are already carrying the virus so that we can prevent ourselves from touching? Who are the ones who are already infected from the virus so that we can prevent any contact with that person? But the answer is we do not know. That's the problem that governments are facing. They can't identify the object and the people. So the only solution is to have a lockdown and distancing. So this is an ultimate necessity to prevent the disease from spreading, whereby we can stop unnecessarily coming in contact with the infected person. Let's look at a real life scenario now. This is a remodel of a network from a high school in Midwestern USA. But we can assume this model with our routine networks where isolated groups are individual people. In the group, small groups are the families, and giant group is our working area, school, college, or any public place. The circles represent the people, and the lines represent the link between the people, the connection between them. This connection may be a physical contact or a regular meetings or sharing a common place or a thing. Networks undergo phase transition from being isolated to small groups to a giant group. Increasing the links between them changes the phase transition easy and quick to reach max numbers. This phase transition in networks are important in fighting a disease, especially such a contagious disease as coronavirus. A critical number associated with the disease and the network through which it might spread is known as a basic reproduction number. This tracks how many other people are newly infected by a typically infected people. So if a person 1 transmits a disease to the person 2, and this transfer is a basic reproduction number. So if the basic reproduction number is greater than or equal to 1, the disease is spreading. If the basic reproduction number is less than 1, the disease dies out because that person is being isolated and treated. Okay, so let's take this small group as an example. So if this particular person gets infected from an unknown source, so there is highly likely chance that he will transfer the virus to another one where he has got the link. So now the basic reproduction number of this person is 1. The second one can transfer to 2 different people. Eventually the disease spreads. Moreover, if this person is being isolated, now the basic reproduction number is below 0 because he is not transferring the disease to anyone else. When this isolated person comes in contact with a smaller group, the disease spreads on a smaller rate and delayed because of the amount of people in the group and their limited movement and their limited connections. But when the same person comes in contact with one of the individuals in the giant group, eventually the spreading of the disease is going to be ginormous, and it's going to transfer to each and every individual in the network through the link, where the probability of touching the common objects and probability of having physical contact is high, which results in a much higher rate of transfer of the disease. As we can see, the giant groups BRN, basic reproduction number, is way higher than 1. So the government is trying to break this network and the connection to prevent the disease being transferred from one person to another. If the disease transfers to a giant group, the next step is going to be each and every smaller portion in the giant group will be isolated, which is a time consuming work and huge number of isolations where leakage of spread could be possible. The symptoms are visible after 14 days of being infected. Let's look at the 21 days lockdown timeline. Let's consider the first 7 days for settlement and getting used to the lockdown regime. During this time, due to the large number of people taking time to settle down because of the mobility, there is highly likely chance of spreading the virus. Yet not a problem, because people who got affected on the first day might show the symptoms on the 14th day, and second on the 15th, third on the 16th, and 7th on the 20th, where the lockdown is still on and the transfer is controllable, where even the medical care can handle the patients. But it is our duty to follow the strict regime on this entire lockdown period, because if someone gets infected on the 8th day, they might show the symptom after 21st day. This is a bit dangerous as the lockdown will be lifted and small group of people will become a giant group because of the reopening of colleges, schools and offices. Now this one person who got affected on the 8th day will spread the disease to a large number of people, because in a giant group the transfer rate is much higher and the basic reproduction number is far greater than 1. If you think this 21 days lockdown is bigger loss and decide to remain open, the decision creates the opportunity for the virus to spread. The result is longer lockdowns. So it's a decision that has to be made by us whether we want one lockdown or multiple lockdowns down the line. If 21 days lockdown is higher to spare, then multiple lockdowns will depreciate the business even further. Our only line of defense is protecting ourselves from being infected. We not only affect ourselves but also our loved ones. So kindly stay at home. For the first time, we have to be together but not with each other to fight a war. Trust the light in the end of the tunnel. Thank you.